What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? We got your boy Quan John. Say what's up, Miss Portia Mystique.
Hi.
Yeah, back at you with Motivational Motives, where we speak to interesting Black people who've overcome adversity and root their prosperity. And we have a very special guest today, Miss TAMARA RASHEED. She's an author, she's a literary guru, she's a trauma coach, and she's going to, sit back and relax and talk to you guys about, how she came on the up and up and how she crossed that bridge to success and how you can do the same thing. Say what's up, TAMARA.
Thank you so much for having me. This is one of those shows that I get super excited about because it's grassroots, it's down to earth, and, it's like family talking to family. And so thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
That's what we like to hear, sweetie. That's definitely, thank you. I appreciate those kudos.
Absolutely.
So basically, you have a very amazing story. I don't know, you know what? Let's start not from the beginning, but let's start from where you want to start from. How did TAMARA get to become who TAMARA RASHEED is today?
Wow, that is a little bit of a journey,
yeah.
And for me to properly start, I have to begin at a place where it seemed impossible, where everything seemed impossible.
Right.
Because, it's during your uncertain times where you can create an unfair advantage for yourself. And people don't realize those uncertain times, your tragedies, your difficulties, your traumas, that's the place where success begins. You know
Good
what
point.
I mean? That's the catalyst for it. And you have two choices, like that red pill, blue pill situation, right? In those moments, you can decide to kind of curl up in a ball and let people keep kicking you.
Right.
Or you can decide to keep getting up. Keep getting up, right? I was raised neglected, abused, and isolated from the world. So I was not supposed to have a life. I was supposed to leave my family's home. And many of my siblings didn't until my mom passed last year in July.
Wow.
So it could have been a stark reality for me.
Yeah.
That I was never able to become educated, that I was never able to, have certain things because all those things were restricted from me. So as a child, I wasn't allowed to go to school. I missed my entire K through 12 education. I had 6 younger siblings that I raised because my parents decided to opt out of parenting altogether and move in a house across the street from us.
All right,
and we basically,
let's stop right there because I don't mean to cut you off, but when we read that, what is that like? Them getting up one day and going, say, we gonna live over there and y'all stay here? Gia, what's going on? It's your boy Quan John here reading Motivational Motives. It's a bona fide manuscript. It's a book of real life parables, quintessential quotes, and reasons to reflect. It can be purchased in Amazon, Target, Walmart, Barnes & Nobles, and over 40,000 international mom and pop shops. So get your copy, 100.
There were no words said. And it was a lot of me at 12 years old processing, taking care of children that were my sisters and brothers that I was not the parent of, and assuming a parental role at 12. It was a lot of processing. I stayed in my head a lot, because I was trying to figure out back.
Right.
It felt like numbness. It felt like wondering, is this the way families are? Because I had no other imprint. I had no other friends. I had no one else, no family members even we were even isolated from extended family.
Really?
So I had no cousins, no aunts, uncles I grew up with. I didn't get to know them until I was in my 30s.
Oh my God.
So, and I come to find out my mother was going to family reunions every year I didn't even know we had family in our state until I was in my late 20s, early 30s. So with that foundation, that environment, in that environment, you think that that's all there is and that's normal. Because you need the imprint of friends. That's an imprint. You get to go to your friend's house and you see how their parents treat them, and you see what they eat for dinner, and you see what they watch on TV. That's an imprint.
Right. That is.
That's one of the reasons why community is important. So I didn't have that. I didn't have that aspect of things. And I didn't have an understanding of my parents' mental health either, and how their parenting, this paranoia-based type of parenting or fear-based parenting.
Question, but when they moved out, did they come to visit you guys? See, I'm still trying to wrap my head around what that looks like. I can't.
We're not allowed to leave the house during the hours of 8 to 3, which I came to find out were school hours. School hours. We're not allowed to leave the house. So we could leave the house after 3 o'clock.
I can't believe
cross the street and go visit our parents. We didn't have phones back and forth. If we did, they wouldn't answer anyway. So we would cross the street, knock on the door. And maybe they would answer, or maybe they would yell through the door, or maybe they would yell through a window.
What? So who was responsible for you guys eating?
So they were responsible for us eating.
I mean,
but that was not something that occurred as often as it should, as you can imagine. Because if you're not in the same home as your children, how do you go? How do you know when you need milk? When you need bread? You got to wait till 3 and hold your stomach, or go to sleep.
God. Oh man.
You can't call anyone. You know, I mean, these are things that as an adult,
it's breaking my heart right now, man. It's breaking my heart right now, man.
It's so crazy that you say that, though, because I mean, did not live your life, but I get what you're saying when it's just like you kind of need other imprints, because there are certain things that will happen in your family, or you're raised a certain way, and it's not until you become adult that you see other people's family and you realize that was weird that we did that. That was weird that we had to.
You never know.
You don't know.
Yes.
When you're in that house, and that's all you know. You don't go out. You don't socialize. When you're in that house 24/7, you're raised around people. It's not until you leave and venture on your own and you realize just the small stuff. It doesn't even have to be huge. Like for me, like yours was huge. But for me, it's just small stuff. Like, families don't do that. Or like, like most people don't really do that. My family was weird. But you don't know until you leave.
That's true. And that is the feeling. When you go to high school, when you get picked on or bullied, or your friends razz you, or you learn how to talk, you don't learn how to code switch between friend groups, and you learn how to code switch between teachers and your friends, and your friends and their parents, and those are skills you learn by being social.
That's right. That's a need. Socialization is definitely a need.
Your hygiene, your grooming, the way you dress, the way you present yourself in certain situations, you pick that up because of social, the way you're groomed socially.
Right.
Your social circle, you're around. So if you don't have those things, if you lack any of those things, then not only is your ability to speak stunted. I did not speak louder than a whisper. because I was used to hearing my own voice.
Wow.
You used to hearing yourself. You don't project your voice. You don't articulate your words. You don't, you speak in a way that's mostly in your head,
Right.
And that's what you're used to until you talk to another person. So when I would talk, I remember talking to other people as I got older, and they would always say they couldn't hear me.
Mm.
And I don't understand why people keep saying they can't hear me, because I can hear myself clearly. Those types of things happen. They get stunted when you're neglected. There is nothing that can keep you from your purpose except for yourself.
That's right. Well said.
All right. So in a situation where there are no teachers, then the environment becomes your teacher.
Right.
And then there are key times in my life where I had my grandmother. She didn't stay long. They moved. My grandparents moved to Texas when I was probably, I would say 7 or 8 years old.
Right.
She was my imprint of love. My grandmother and my grandfather, they were imprints of love, what love was like.
Right.
So my grandmother would braid my hair. She would listen to me just talk about whatever came out of my little 5 or 6 year old mouth, and so when I searched my mind and my heart for what love even felt like, what did it feel like to have affection? Because I didn't get that from my parents. Not in any way. It felt like grandmotherly love. That's what it felt like.
Okay.
So I remember my grandmother used to hand make birthday cards for me and my siblings.
Okay.
She, little cutouts or stickers and whatnot, and she would make them, mail them, or give them to me. And she would buy Valentine conversation hearts and give me a whole bag by myself. So everybody say they hate those Nico wafers and all that stuff. I love those because they remind me of my grandma. Like, can't take those away from me, So there were just certain things that she, marshmallow peeps, they'll always have a special place in my heart because my grandmother would give those to me. So there were different things that imprinted, in my life. So I drew my education from my environment. And I had to, I'm like, okay. And I feel like that's what survival does, right? Survival allows you, it's a human instinct, kind of an animal instinct, right? To survive, to be adaptable, to figure things out, figure out how to function when otherwise you're not taught to do that. So I absorbed everything that I learned from books. It was primarily books. My parents had a large shelves of books and boxes of books, and I ran through every one of them. So all the encyclopedias they had. But prior to that, even as a baby, my mom said I would speak to her in sentences at 6 months old.
What?
She took me to Kmart, and I was sitting in the cart, and I was 6 months sitting in this cart, and my mom was looking at dresses, and she said, I told her, no, Mom, I don't like that one. Pick that one. At 6 months.
Wow.
My kids couldn't do that at 6 months.
Right.
Somehow seeds were planted in me for that to be the case. And that compelled my mother to tell me something her mother told her, which was, you're not the mama, I'm the mama. That's what she would say.
Wow.
Because that's what her mother said to her.
Really?
When she felt like her daughter was stepping out of bounds.
Really?
So there was things, I started picking up these subtle hints of trauma from my mother.
So she went through her own trauma as well.
Absolutely.
Got you.
Many mothers are traumatized.
Absolutely. I agree.
And they birth children and they teach them trauma.
That's right.
And they don't know that they're doing that.
You're right.
They don't realize, and they don't
You're
even
right.
know how to talk about it.
You're right.
So when I talk about my mother, I talk about her from a standpoint of her being wounded in trauma to the point where she can't see past the trauma far enough to be able to help herself in any way. If you can imagine that you're so unavailable emotionally, mentally, spiritually, trapped in a box of trauma that you cannot ask for help for anything.
Right, right.
That was my mother. So reading books, being childlike in my desire to learn was essential for me to learn how to do anything.
Okay.
Approaching everything in play, approaching everything without taking it too seriously, because I had to laugh through a lot of things in order to
get through them.
In order not to cry through it.
That's right.
I definitely was chronically depressed growing up. Definitely.
Portia?
I mean, so okay, I'm sorry. I'm wrapping my head around that. Like, it's just because
I know it's kind of hard to process, man.
I understand.
Like I'm needing to process.
My story is that I lived it, and I know the pains in it, but then I have to listen to other people process.
Yeah.
And that's another level of imprinting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because it's funny because I understand that everybody has their own trauma. You know what I mean? And so it's amazing that you were able to get to a point where not only did you recognize your trauma, but you understood it at a level that would allow you to overcome it. And like that's what I want to know. Like, how were you able to overcome all of this trauma?
See, I didn't know what I was going through was trauma. I had no idea that that's what I was going through. I thought it was what everyone experienced because I didn't know anyone else, you know? So as I got older, let's say, so by the age of 10, I was able to teach myself my basic education, basic reading, writing, math, you know, science, social studies, history, basic could get my hands on everything. I went to, my mother ended up, I became insufferable is what happened.
Okay.
I became someone so interested in learning and knowledge. I constantly pestered my mother about school and about needing more information. I needed more information. I didn't have enough. There's not enough in this house. I can't talk to my younger kind of input, you know? So she started dropping us off at Wayne State University's library.
Dropping y'all off. Hold up.
Library.
How old were you when she dropped y'all off?
Being dropped off there, I was about 10, I want to say 10, 11.
Hold up. You got to be, hold up.
Bunch of
kids.
Be
kidding me. Hold up. Listen, I mean, hold up. I'm sorry.